Rick Harsh here. This is a review of a book of short stories called An Impalpable Certain Rest. Very poetic title. And also, something I didn't point out before when I talked about what the book looked like. Notice that, there seems like maybe it's water. Look at the if you can tell, the letters seem like they're underwater. It's a really, really cool effect. Um, this is by Jeff Bursey. He's a Coronasums author, and because he's an excellent writer, novelist, I've read all three of his novels, and they're all quite supremo. I didn't ask to read his third novel before publishing it, and it was a good idea because then I had the pleasure of reading it after it was published, it's always a little nicer, And same with his short stories. I'm not much of a short story reader, which is an odd thing to say because, of course, I've read lots of short stories in my time. But it's just I'm a novelist and I tend to read novels. So coming at this book and knowing I was going to review it, I thought I should take a page out of somebody with a book on how to do it. But then I thought, no, I'm just going to do it. And then I thought, I have all these thoughts coming to me. Like the first story, which is called Certitude, and it's a fairly long one of the longer ones. It's a 73-page story. It's called Certitude, but I'm not sure what I thought about it, but I had a really, really insightful thought, and it's lost now, but pretty much, what it's about. This guy, the narrative voice is talking about his five friends and his relationship with these friends, or these four or five friends, and they were friends when they were young, and then they were friends again when they're a little older, and he's at some point he no longer fit in and was kind of kept out of the group when they were young, and then as they became older he still didn't fit in. There's a lot of things about him that make what seem like fairly conventional minded friends suspicious, and so on. And and this goes on for 70 pages, and it go by like this because you're really into the characters. I'm the whole time I was reading the stories, I was thinking about short stories. These are short stories. What is it about short stories? What do they need to do? What should they do? Well, I think one thing, I don't think there's anything really different from what you do in novels in terms of characters. I mean, I know that okay, Bursey is extremely good at drawing characters quickly with conversation, and but that's something a novelist has too. If well, some novelists have that talent, and some not so much. But Bursey's a master at that. But that also works in his novels. So it's not exactly that. But then what? Okay, we end up. The story ends on page 73, and I can't spoil it. Other than by telling you where it ends, and then you can spoil it. Actually, at the end of 72, there seems to me to be this might sound trite, but it seems to be that the character you want to say is talking more about himself. The story is more about him than it is his friends. Well, but of course it is, because he's the one talking, and he's the one whose head you can get into. So yeah, that of course it's more about him. But what is it about him? And what I think you could read this several times and still not be quite sure what he is, who he is, what's true of them, what isn't true of them, and nothing. Well, actually, maybe something. One major event occurs, but that happens in fiction. Things happen. Anyway, so that's what I have to say about the first one. I thought it was um, uh, it was extremely impressive writing, and it also, as I'm struggling to think, I'm overthinking and underthinking and side thinking and sidestepping. So luckily, the next story was a short, simple one called Charm. It opens within the basement apartment Lana and Jack once lived in. They were surprised at how clearly the upstairs tenants' voices carried. And then in about 19 pages, the story is over. But you get this marvelous effect of getting to hear everything that Jack and Lana hear. They get to hear the relationship that occurs upstairs, because every word comes through the floorboard, and that is just a blast. What the story makes on relationships and so on is, I leave it for the reader to discover. You'll have fun doing it. Now the next story is called Reliance. That's story number 3. And yeah, there are 11, and I'm going to go through all of them, but I got to remember which one is which. Here, you've had a long one and a short one, so Reliance is going to be long, right? And it is a story about a woman who wants to get out of a small town, or a 17-year-old who wants to get out of a small town, and she's going to through dance, and oh, look, I underlined something. Okay. Now I know why I did, yeah. If she left this place, went somewhere, she would be free, happier, instead of feeling claustrophobic when walking down the main street between buildings, all of 3 stories tall, experiencing the world narrowing while she placed one foot ahead of the other as if practicing a movement in some studio. I thought that was just a nice touch, and I marked it down. The dancer seeing the town and experiencing the town through the dance. But the great thing about this story is that if you haven't looked ahead, you're expecting it to go on for a long time, and it comes to an end much more quickly and much more surprisingly than you would think. And there's a very I don't know, a very, I'm not sure if it's a Midwestern kind of darkness. Now, Bursey is from the southeast of Canada, but there's something very dark in this story, and I'm not going to give it away, but it's a kind of darkness that I can see in a 19th century Scottish film, or in a Midwestern novel. I don't know. There's something very regionally dark about it. Maybe any region. Maybe once you get regional, you get small and dark. The next story is called The Island, and that's a kind of fascinating parable that I'm going to leave you to enjoy on your own. And that's all I'm going to say. A man alone on island. What happens? Well, it's interesting what happens. The next one, this is Fugue. Okay, yeah. Fugue is really, was that one of my favorites? Well, there was one that I'm not sure I liked. And I have to be honest, because then you'll trust me. There was one that I didn't really like, but it wasn't Fugue. Fugue was terrific. This one takes place on the Tube in London, and there's a blind woman and her husband, and they're riding the same line as our protagonist, and it's just a fascinating and full story. And my simple comments are of this nature when I talk about short stories. Is that that was as full as a novel. Uh, what makes a novel? I don't know. That novel was in a book of short stories and was only 55 pages. So I guess, and these pages are not giant. I pointed out in a different video how I don't normally like the ragged right, but I do like these kinds of small pages. This is a very fun, pleasant book to read. It's good paper. It's got that wonderfully subtle title page, and the back is not overloaded with buy me words, and of course I'm happy because it's got two of my beloved logos on it, and but that extra touch inside to make it distinct. I really liked it. So anyway, this one, I think I was probably at my most I don't know. At this point, I really wanted to read the whole thing, the whole book, while I was reading this story. But then I forced myself to stop. I wrote a note here to the author and said, I'm really enjoying your stories. And because, an author should be told that if it's true. The next story is White Knight. And this is the one I didn't like. And there's a reason I didn't like it. I'm not going to say if it's a good or bad story. It's not. Nothing is badly written by Bursey. Bursey is a brilliant writer, and he knows his effects and so on. And it's what he is trying to do, he does. And oh wait, I'm on the wrong one. Oops. Nope, that's not the one. I like this one a lot, actually. It's the next one I didn't like. White Knight. Yeah, this is a fun one. Couples night. A couple goes out, and what is short fiction without couples? I wonder if anybody besides Kafka has written a novel without a married couple fighting. But White Knight is just a semi-comic, semi-dark masterpiece of that kind of writing. The problem is when you're writing about a couple, if they're not getting along, it depends on your mood how much delight you take in their arguing and so on. Sometimes it should be funny, but it just isn't. The misery people put each other through is just awful. By the way, this is not television. We're going to pause for a commercial break. By the way, what can we help you with? I know, but just go ahead and talk to her. I'm just recording a video. I mean, this is not sacred. My daughter's going to pay me $5 for the commercial break. My daughter's not going to pay me $5 for the commercial break. My daughter is going to lose her telephone for 5 weeks. Huh. Well, how do you like that? So White Knight, yeah, I like that one a lot. Sorry about that, audience. But bastard, what did you say? That was in here. Anyway, the next story is the one that I didn't like. Night Attack, it's called. And I'm not going to say anything because you might like it. Obviously, the author likes it. It effectively does what it wanted to do, but I didn't enjoy that. I didn't hate it. I just kind of nodded my head and said, "Oh, okay." And I guess I kind of thought I thought that something similar to what happens would happen, and that's really unusual here, and a couple of reasons. One is that although we all, when we read, we think about what might happen and what the possibilities are and so on. When we're letting the book come to us, we don't work too hard at it, or I don't. And and also, I've pretty much learned with Bursey, that would be pointless anyway. You don't know what's going to happen, and and it had already been proved to me in this book. So I was a little bit surprised that one, and maybe it's just me. So there are 11 stories in this. 10 of them I'd swear by as terrific works, and one of them I'd say not for me, maybe terrific for you. So that's a pretty good record. 10 out of 11, because I really liked this book. And I'm wondering now, okay, the frequency of alarm is the next one. And this is a military story. And of all the stories in this book, this is medium length. It's about 40 pages, I think. It's unclear what war is just ending, but a war is just ending. And it's a listening station that we're at, and the lieutenant at the listening station is not feeling really great about the war ending and her not getting anywhere and just having to go, and there's a kind of a downbeat moment, and they're not nobody's happy. I mean, nobody in the story is thrilled with the victory. It's just kind of a ho-hum situation, maybe because their job is listening and information. They're not out doing the active stuff. Maybe that's what it is. But the environment and the feel of the place is very, very well conveyed, and so that when it does end, something happens, and I honestly don't know what it is. And I'm not sure if the author would tell me if I asked him. So I might not even ask him. I might just keep, I reread it and trying to figure it out. And it's certainly not a lapse in the writing. There are suggestive things. And I'm not sure, when that's the case, you don't always know if you're supposed to know or not. And in this case, I think I'm supposed to know, but I can't figure it out. Maybe you would figure it out. If you do, again, the story is called The Frequency of Alarm. And there's probably irony in the story. Bursey's a complicated, careful person with words. So he didn't just say, hey, frequency of alarm would sound good. So there is no alarm in the story. Maybe that's what's alarming. And so that's all I'm going to say about that. Because I'm about to go to, I think this is my absolute favorite, the next one, which is called A Torch Did Touch His Heart, briefly. Page 225. Okay, oh Muse, help me sing a song of adulation. Okay, anyway, that's how it starts. But I wanted to read 2 pages from this one. This one is just it's a masterpiece, Any book of short stories that by a great writer is going to have the potential for teachers to reach in and pull stories out, and then once that begins happening, they become part of the canon. This is canon fodder. This story is as wonderful as I find his writing. This is the story that really moved me. This is the one that said, I am a masterpiece. Okay, I'm just reading at random here. I decided I'm just going to read a couple of pages, and just to, I don't know why these two, but I've done research. I know what you're thinking, but let me tell you, I have a female friend. She went the naval path. Yoga, inner child, phenomenology. Then she settled for bioenergetics. For her, it's a religion. I'd respect her more if she was Pentecostal. At least that's an open cheat. She got involved in this secular faith because she's afraid of daddy. All men, institutions are daddy, right? Afraid of his power, anger, disappointment, virility, intellectual capabilities. She's been that way all her life, though it wasn't there the way she insists. She imagined some of it, that's clear. I've known her since we were small. Her parents did the best any parents can do. Suddenly she gets this idea. I wasn't raised as well as I would have liked to be, or liked to have been. Not as good as my parents could have if they'd tried a little more, if they'd been wiser. Wiser, God. 9 months, and when you come out, you want to be born to sages? That was funny. What happens? She invents reasons why she's sickly now, excuses for her weaknesses, and by doing bioenergetics or some other fad, she'll work through this. Isn't that what people say? I tell you, she's paying for someone to put a larger pool in their backyard. Another good line. Did you ever go into one of those therapeutic massage places? I tried it once, but the fear, no, not that I'd have an erection, that hardly bothers me, but they see one penis, they've seen them all. No, the way they describe things, your muscles knotted because of psychic pain built up over the years. One therapist murmured, the body remembers things your mind prefers to forget, and we bring it out. I heard crying the one time I went when I was putting on my clothes. Didn't realize it was me for a moment. The shame of it. Someone just going in and tearing away my privacy, gouging my body with talons, and everyone so solicitous after I handed over the money, given tissues, time for weeping, made me almost throw up. Temples of sensual delight, that's what that kind of place reminds me of. But there they massage your psyche instead of giving you a blowjob, all to let pain flow away, while you're surrounded by colors never seen by anyone who isn't ill. That's when I decided this whole thing is going out. Ghastly corals, or worse, heather, mixed with pale greens. The walls adorned with tacky posters and bromides like you'd find in a sampler knit by some grandmother in a Protestant kitchen. Only instead of a verse chosen from the meek parts of the Bible, you get messages that are meant to inflate your self-esteem. A therapist's office is filled with quasi-religious trappings and New Age music, with inspirational books like missiles left around bearing the titles How to Be a Better Person, Loving Yourself After Incest and Rape, Getting in touch with the essential oneness, Ocean Waves. All they need are votive candles. I'm sorry, none of that was important to say, not a bit of it, forget it. I was just remembering my friend. Her father remarried not long after the divorce. Now he's a father again. She won't meet the little baby, doesn't like the, quote, step monster, end quote. None of her brothers will visit either. When that kid grows up and realizes he's cold or sick mentally, it may be because he didn't know love. She won't show him any. Her brothers won't. He'll never have a nice experience with aunts or uncles. Does she stop and think that when he's older, he'll feel he wasn't wanted? No. But sure, her parents ruined her when she was young by not showing her enough love. I come back to love always. Now, the funny thing about this, if you don't think that was funny, well, we have different tastes. But what takes this to a different depth is that was medium depth. We don't really, we can't conclude anything by what he's saying there. This is not some guy. Now I realize it's a guy, and he's talking about a woman, and maybe he's just a sexist, right? No, 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 no. You've got everything in the Bursey book. You've got gay, straight, sexist. Um, yeah, I mean, never mind that. I wish I hadn't even thrown that in there. That's a trigger warning. Trigger warning. We'll call it a trigger warning. There are gays here, and the word fag is used in conversation. All right, trigger warning. There are triggers also in here, and warnings. All right, both. But the thing is that, even by the time you get to the end of this, and the passage I gave you doesn't at all convey what this story is fully about. But this is a story that I will read again and again and again. And I don't think it's because I don't understand it. I understand it very well, but there's a movement, an emotional movement throughout, if I'm putting that right. And I think when I looked just now to see how long it was, I couldn't believe it was as short as it was, because I thought, yeah, okay, I'll talk about that one for sure because that's a long one. And that's actually only 25 pages. And but it was so rich that those 25 pages moved me at least as much as the 70 pages of the first one, and what was one of my other favorites? The Fugue, which is 55 pages. This one just like I said, if that wasn't in here, I would be giving this a great review. But it's just one level. It's at the top level now. You're not gonna, when you read a book of poetry, occasionally you get, the idea of order at Key West, but usually you just get great poetry if you're lucky. This is the idea of order at Key West in the short story form. Remember it from An Impalpable Rest by Jeff Bursey. A torch did touch his heart briefly. The next story is A Livid Loneliness, and this is probably, I've read this before. I don't know where, and I'm not saying that I suspect Jeff Bursey of stealing stories, but somehow at some point I read one of his stories. We've known each other in literary circles for a year and a half now or something like that. So at some point I read this story, and as it came back to me, it was like, all the feelings did too. And they're not, it's just not fun. And when you write about the human condition, and you're writing a short story, you've got to move the reader sometimes. And this does it. This is just not a fun story. It's like, luckily it's a short story and not a 2-hour film. It's like, some people can't watch Bergman. They would have a hard time with this. You should tell them, A Livid Loneliness, read that one. It takes place on a tropical island. They'll hate you afterwards, although that much is true. But it's just, everything is right on. It's a perfectly played tune. But it's just, it's not, it's not a happy fucking story. But I will give you a little, this is one of those, those fortuitous moments when you find a line like this in fiction. You've got to mark it for the next person, because that may be yourself. If I pick this up in 15 years, I'll be, oh, that's really good. She was sure that for the first time in his life, he was smelling a gangrenous animal. Just, wow. He was doing great up till then, Jeff Bursey was, but then he decided, gut punch, and wow. She was sure that for the first time in his life, he was smelling a gangrenous animal. That was her, the gangrenous animal. And she wasn't gangrenous, by the way. That's a figure of speech. And then he ends with what is called "What in Me is Dark, comma, Illumine." What is it? What in Me is Dark, Illumine. Beautiful title. And I think I know what this story is doing and what it means, and it's fucking brilliant. It's short, and I think it's a work of art. It's maybe um, also one of those books that you need to throw into the canon. Maybe you got to throw Bursey into the canon. But if that story it means what I think it means, wow. And just because it requires the perfect language, and he does it. This back of the book says that Jeff Bursey is the author of the Richly Unorthodox novels, and gives us 3 unorthodox, richly novels. And yeah, but when you take a richly unorthodox novel writer, what are the short stories going to be like? No two the same. Although I think, probably at some point you're going to say, oh, hey, it sounds like Bursey to me, but I can't say in any way that this is what this book of stories is. They're different stories. They're written by Bursey. They are all Bursified and certifiably Bursified, and so they're definitely, it's definitely a great book of stories. And you got it from me. There's one I didn't like, and 2 at least that maybe even the last one too. I don't know, that could go in a canon. Should go in the canon, but I think Bursey should just go in the canon. And he's already got 3 extraordinary novels, and now a book of short stories. He has a book of criticism out that I haven't read yet. I would like to read that, but wow, 32 minutes. I just babbled for 32 minutes. Well, I think I said what I wanted to say, and I didn't read this book. And I don't like reading the books I publish until after I publish them, unless I have to. And it's been working out just great. And not, I got to the point with this one that I was like, really, and also the last one, William Clark's, W.D. Clark's book. She sang to them. She's saying, I got to the place with both of these 2 books, 2 Canadians, that I was looking forward to them being published so I could finally read them. I didn't care for a while, but come on, after all this time, where is I want to read the book, publish it. Oh, I got to publish it. Okay, well, give it to me so I can publish it. And that's been done, and now I've read it, and I'm just grateful that Bursey accepted our press. I'm not grateful that he's in a position where he's not just snapped up by Viking, Vintage, New York Review of Books, or whatever. I'm sorry that's not the case. But maybe if he's in print, someday that'll happen. It should happen. This is a masterpiece.